So, Seal is coming out in global in around 1 to 2 days, depending on which region you're currently living in. For me, it's 2 days, but for the Asian folks, it's probably tomorrow when this video drops. So, yeah, we're gonna be making a tier list on the Ruined Temple units because the meta here compared to any other dungeon is much different, as most of the debuffs simply do not work and you have to do damage via damage over time effects such as the burn, frostbite, bleed, poison, and electric shock. So I'm not going to be making an updated guide on the boss itself, as the previous one I've made still stands. The only thing you need to know is that the cheat strategy doesn't work anymore because it has been patched like a month ago, so you have to learn how to dodge all of the boss's attacks and you will have to learn his mechanics. There's no cheap way to do it anymore, so if you're interested you can check that video or any other guide on YouTube. There are plenty there, so you'll definitely be well informed how to do it. But yeah, for today I'm gonna be making a tier list on the best units to pick in this dungeon. This includes a lot of Nat 3s, Nat 4s, and even Nat 5s up to L and D Nat 5s. And I'm only gonna be including units that are like super good in this dungeon, so starting from the Fire Ifrit all the way to the Dark Lich, like the first two top rows and the first 4 units in the third one. I've picked these out as like the very top picks in this dungeon. The rest, there are of course more units that do dots, but I simply feel like they are not worth using compared to these ones. So yeah, let's begin. And just a disclaimer, since there are a lot of units, I will not go too much into detail why or why not they are good. I'll simply review the skills that help out and put them on the tier list. So, starting with the Fire Ifrit, he has several abilities that apply burn. So first of all, his basic attack has a 6% chance to apply burn for 16 seconds. And also his second skill has a 3-hit ability that applies level 1 burn for 60 seconds. So on average, this skill will land 2 burns per usage, and if you build him on an attack speed heavy build, he will also land some additional burns. And I'm gonna be putting him in the A category. He will be sort of in the middle, as there will be better units for A category and there will be some that are worse. Now, Remy, and I'm gonna clump these together, so Remy and Bernard, the Buin Griffon, they sort of serve the same purpose. You mostly want them for the movement speed buffs. Remy will have, let's say that Remy will be more of a defensive option and Bernard will be more of an offensive option. So if you are able to get both of them, it will be even better. But if you only do Bernards or if you only do Remy's, that's completely fine. You mostly want them for the movement speed buff, but those additional buffs sometimes help as well, such as like crit resistance up and crit damage taken down will help you survive a bit more. And if you choose the Bernard, he has attack speed instead, so he will benefit those units like the Fire Ifrit, like the Fire Chimera, who have abilities that land damage over time on their basic attack. So both of these are super important and both of them are going in the S tier. However, I will put Bernard higher as he will allow you to land more dots with that attack speed, especially if you have units that have dots on their basic attacks. And running these dungeons without a single movement speed buffer will be extremely difficult, so I definitely recommend having at least one movement speed buffer in your whole party. Now, the Water Harpus Cicero, she's a decent unit, however definitely not the top pick as far as Seal goes. She has ability that applies Frostbite for 20 seconds, and she also has Frostbite on her basic attack. This Frostbite lasts a bit less, it's only for 14 seconds, however it's very similar to stuff like the Sarion or Rakan, so it's still worth mentioning. However, she will be going on the lower C tier as far as damage over time goes. Garok, the Dark Imp, is also one of the more decent damage over time appliers. However, he only does it on one of his skills, so This is a 3-hit skill and it has a 67% chance to apply bleed for 16 seconds. So on average, again, that is around 2 bleeds per skill usage. However, the mana cost on the skill is pretty low, so it is definitely still worth mentioning. But I will not be putting him too high. He's sort of similar to the water harpoon in terms of damage over time he applies. So I will be placing him in C tier as well. However, definitely above the water harpoon in my opinion, as the bleed is sort of a better damage over time effect, as way less units have it compared to frostbite. Now the wind ifrit. So this unit has a very unique ability that I believe not any single other unit in the game has, I believe. And that's on his basic attack. So once maxed out, he has the ability to increase all damage over time effects by 2 seconds. This being on a basic attack means that if you have at least a little bit of attack speed for more consistent attacks, I would say like 200 is a safe point to get to, this guy will allow you to permanently keep all of the damage over time effects that have been applied until you either explode them with various skills that explodes damage over times, or the boss cleanses it, and that cleanse doesn't happen very often, so you will have a lot of benefit from this skill. And to top it all off, he also has an ability that applies electric shock for 20 seconds on a 3 mana cost, which is alone is one of the better abilities in terms of applying damage over time effects. And electric shock is actually the best damage over time effect there is, because it actually has a small passive that you may not have known existed, and there is a chance that it will take double damage from this damage over time effect, meaning that this damage over time effect, while it has similar scalings, it will have a chance to do even more damage compared to any other one. So having electric shock on top of having this passive makes him, in my opinion, the strongest unit in this dungeon, like overall. So Frigate, of course, he is a dark nat 5, so there is a very small chance that you will have him. However, if you do, I definitely recommend using him. He will mostly be used as a soul link unit, and your goal is to just spam the third skill that he has. So this skill, on 4 mana cost, it will decrease all monster cooldowns by 20%, which is less than a Tion, however still a very decent amount. Also, it will decrease the cooldowns on your summoner for 20 seconds, and to top it all off, both your monsters and your summoner is getting level 2 skill acceleration, which means that you will be able to use your skills 60% more often, because it's a level 2 skill, so you will get the 1.6 times effect if you're able to stack multiple ones, and if he is soul link, you will be able to do that easily. You will even reach level 4, which allows you to use your skills 75% more often. So just because of that, he is pretty much one of the top skill cooldown boosters, and he's going straight to the S tier. And please move, definitely above the movement speed enablers. Now the Light Pixie, she's sort of a miscellaneous unit, however, she is one of the better miscellaneous units, because in Seal, there are scenarios where you do want to have a reviver, and I do recommend having at least one wound up, even if you're not using him, because accidents happen and the boss sometimes catches sort of a unlucky pattern and there is no way to escape. And if your units are squishy, there is a very good chance that they will be dying, and that revive allows you to just bring them up back. If you do not have heals yourself, you can rely on your teammates to heal them up right after they have been revived, and this will allow you to continue the runs with the main units that you have. So she has one of the better revives, because not only can she revive a unit, there is a chance she will revive a second unit on top of that. So this just allows you to bring your team back way faster than something like Tion would be able to. And to top it all off, she also has some damage over time on her abilities, so This skill will hit 2 times, and basically you have a decent chance to apply 2 level 1 burns for 20 seconds, which makes an amazing unit in this tier list, and I'm definitely giving her a spot in the A tier. Now Donna, the light penguin, she is very similar to what Tion and Konamiya provide with their second skill, so it will boost by the same 35%, it will boost cooldowns at least, for both your summoner and your monsters. It also has a passive to decrease harmful effects level by 1 and decrease the skill cooltimes by 1 second for each level. However, the Seal dungeon does not apply any damage or time effects, so this passive is sort of lost, and this being 1 mana cost higher than Tion and Konamiya makes those birds a little bit better than Donna. However, if you have him built and if you do not have Konamiya or Tion built for whatever reason, you can consider using him, but they will definitely not be as good as the light and the water Garudas, so he's still getting his spot in the B tier. Now Tiamar's, I'm gonna be putting him in the tier list purely because he was the first banner and a lot of units, or rather a lot of players, already have him and sometimes even use him in Seal. So just to keep it fair, because I've seen quite a few I've seen my share of quite a few Tiamar's in the Seal dungeon. However, the damage over time effects he has are quite disappointing. So he only applies Frostbite with his third skill, and with this it hits 3 times with a 67% chance. That means on average he will be landing around 2 Frostbites per skill. The skill costs 4 mana and has a bit of a longer cooldown, so it's really not that good of a unit as far as Seal goes, and he's definitely going in C tier, way below these two, as they have skills that apply Frostbite or Poison more often, as well as have cheaper abilities to apply them. Another one of skill cooldown boosters is Eleanor, Jesus, the name, Eleanor, the Light Polar Queen. She has a bit of a worse boost as far as monster skill cooldowns goes, because like comparing it to the light and water Garudas, they boost by 35%, but they only cost 3 mana. However, this one also boosts your skill cooldowns of your summoner by 80%. It is useful in those cases if you are either a Cleave or an Orbia user. For Kina, since she doesn't have too much damage or time effects, it will not be as important. However, it is still very useful to use this, as you are able to heal up your team a bit more often. You are able to provide those buffs that Kina has. For example, if you're running a water Kina, you can keep applying that attack speed buff on a lot of your allies, allowing them to do even more damage over time effects. And of course, she boosts ultimate gauge, so if you have another nat 5 unit that applies a lot of dots, for example in my case that would be Kasadian, you can quickly switch to him, you can ult with him, and his ultimate will apply additional burn stacks on it. So she's an awesome unit and she definitely deserves a spot in the S tier. Wind Chimera, Larbaron, is a decent damage over time flyer as well. First of all, he has a chance to apply electric shock on his basic attack. However, that electric shock only lasts 10 seconds compared to a lot of units that do it for 14 or 16 seconds, so it's a bit worse in that department. As far as skills go, he has an electric shock on his second ability. However, it is also only level 1 and barely lasts for 14 seconds. However, it does have pretty low cooldown and mana cost, so it's still worth a spot in the tier list. However, he will be going a bit lower in it, and I will be putting him around here, just above the Water Harpo, because Electric Shock, as you know, has a chance to do double damage, which means he is sort of a more effective damage effect overall. Now, Dark Vampire Cadiz. Where do I even start with this unit? So, he has 2 different ways to apply Bleed. So, first of all, it's his third skill. So, Just by using it regularly, you are getting 1 level of bleed for 16 seconds. However, if he has 10 thirst stacked from his passive or his second skill, he'll actually apply additional level 5 bleed. Yes, level 5 bleed for 16 seconds. That alone makes him like one of the top units. But we haven't even looked at his passive, and if you check his passive, we're gonna ignore the thirst for now. It's not too important for us. Of course, it helps with the third skill, but we're gonna be paying attention to this. If the target has no beneficial effect, and the boss does not have beneficial effects ever, all except like invincibility whenever he does one his face, but that pretty much never happens as far as regular run timing goes, so you can safely ignore that. If the target has no beneficial effects, whenever he attacks the boss with any skill, it can be a skill, it can be basic attack, it will apply level 1 bleed for 14 seconds with a 40% chance. Compare that to a lot of units that have like 6% on their basic abilities. That's already like 6 or 7 times higher chance to apply that bleed, and bleed itself being a pretty rare damage normal effect. So yeah, absolutely insane. If you have him, congratulations. He is a must use in this dungeon, and you will be doing a lot of damage with him. Now, Garudas. I debated on whether to put the water one here as well, however I decided against it. They do have the same attack buff, or not attack buff, what is called skill cooldown buffing skills. However, I feel like light one will have way more use due to his third skill as well. The heal is a little bit weaker in most cases. However, you do have that revive, which helps out if some accidents happen and one of your teammates dies. You can simply revive them without having to run away from the boss, switching any units, making the run that much faster. So of course, I'm gonna be putting him high up on the list. I'm actually gonna be, I would say, because he is free to, nah, you know what, no, he goes below LMO. I feel like her ultimate boost could put an edge over that. But yeah, he's here. If you do not have Tion and want to use Konamiya, he's also decent. Would probably put Konamiya somewhere around here, but for the sake of the tier list, to not clump it up, I'm not going to use it much. I prefer you to use Tion over Konamiya, and since he is a nat 3, there is a very good chance that you will have him as well. Okay, wind, or not wind, water imp fiend is not imp champion, just a regular nat 3 imp. And this guy has frostbite on his third skill, and this is probably one of the best frostbite applying abilities in the game. So you're hitting an enemy 3 times, and with a 75% chance you have to apply a chance to apply frostbite for 20 seconds. That is a level 2 frostbite. That means on average this skill will be applying around 4 to 5 levels of frostbite, and it actually lasts for quite a bit. And to top it off, the mana cost on this skill is pretty low, so even when soling, this skill will be spamming frostbite quite a bit, and just because of that skill, he deserves a spot high up in the A tier position. Now, the Dark Serpent Montura, unfortunately I don't have this unit summoned, and I wish I did, because the damage over time he applies is also super good. So this guy will apply poison with his second skill, but if you check the duration, it's actually for 30 seconds, which is a very long damage over time effect, and it mostly matters, of course, if you do not have a wind ifrit on your team. The duration is not as important if you do, but yeah, it hits 3 times, it applies the poison for each hit, meaning that on average it will apply most of the time 2 poison, sometimes even 3, so it's a very decent damage over time monster, especially since poison is a bit of a rare effect and you will have quite a bit of trouble stacking it to level 10, so he definitely deserves his spot in the B tier. Oh boy, Seal in Seal, yes, the name is amazing and solid matches for the dungeon. and I know she is a very popular pick in this dungeon. However, you may disagree with this opinion, and I feel like this will be probably the most controversial one. I don't think she is that good in this dungeon. So the reason behind that is this skill will apply level 1 bleed and level 1 poison for quite a long time, but the two main caveats about it is, first of all, the cooldown and the mana cost are a little bit too high for her to be a viable damage over time unit. It will work better if you have a wind effect, of course, but without it, I am not a big fan of it. Second of all, the range on this skill is so small that in most cases, if the boss is moving when she uses the skill, you will simply not hit him. So there is a very good chance that you will actually miss this ability, and without any other abilities that apply damage over time effects, I feel like this unit is sort of a, it's sort of a meh unit in my book, and I will still give it a B because it has two damage over time effects that are pretty rare as far as regular compositions go, but definitely doesn't deserve a high spot in my book. Okay, Rika, the fire cold girl. If you played the Sky Arena game, you already know she's like the top damage over time dealer in there, and she definitely doesn't disappoint in this game as well. So she has two different ways to apply damage over time effects. So first of all, her third skill will hit 3 times, and each hit has a 77% chance to apply level 1 burn for 16 seconds. On average, that's around 2.3 burns per skill usage. It is a 4 mana skill, so it's a bit expensive. However, the main value comes from her passive, and her passive will activate every 7 seconds, and whenever she hits an enemy, or rather not hits, but the enemy with the highest defense, since you know the seal boss is the only enemy on the battlefield, meaning that she will only target him with this passive. And this passive every 7 seconds will apply level 2 burn for 14 seconds, which is I think she is, just from the passive alone, able to upkeep a level 4 burn permanently on the boss. And if you include this skill, she is able to stack like level 5 and 6 burn even more. So definitely deserves a very high spot in the rankings. Now, Joltan, the Dark Werewolf, he actually has two abilities that apply damage over effects. So the main one will be his second skill, where he hits the enemy 3 times, and each hit has a 67% chance to apply level 1 bleed for 16 seconds. So on average, that is around level 2 bleed per skill usage. On top of that, he also has a decent ability to apply bleed on his third skill as well. So he should be used as a non-soul link unit because both of his abilities contribute to the damage over time effects being stacked, and on average, each time he uses both of his skills, he will apply level 3 bleed in total. So definitely deserves a decent spot in the tier list, and I'm gonna be putting him probably around here, definitely better than these two. I'm not gonna be putting him A tier because the cooldowns on those skills are a little bit too high for my liking. If one of them, or at least like the main one, was on 3 mana cost and like 20 seconds or below, he would definitely be going up there into the A tier, but with the current skills he has, I will keep him at a B tier. Okay, Fire Pixie Tato, probably the unit that half of the people love and the other half of the people hate, because she is very commonly used and used multiple times in one team. And the main reason why people use her or hate when others using it is she explodes burn. So basically, whatever damage over time or burn effects you have stacked, she instantly uses those up and will deal all of that damage in one hit. Meaning that if you have like level 10 burn stacked, if you use the skill, the boss will lose all of the burn and instantly get like 2% of his max HP taken down. So it is an amazing unit to speed up the runs. However, people hate it because if others stack that burn effect and you are a Fire Pixie user and you simply explode it, you will receive all of that damage into the leaderboards, and this causes a lot of people, instead of going for more damage over time effects, to stack up pixies and try to steal damage, which means that others will hate you if you use a lot of pixies in a single team. And I definitely don't recommend using more than 2 pixies per team, because 2 pixies I feel like are a perfect amount to keep exploding dots whenever they stack up to level 10. If you bring more, you're simply wasting a spot that you could use for better units in the game. And I will give you a reason to not use too many pixies. From my experience, from like 2 months of farming this dungeon, maybe even 3 months by now, damage definitely doesn't correlate to better rewards. Trust me on that. Pretty much all of the times that I've received a lot of damage, I rolled very low numbers. Times where I received very low damage, I rolled very high numbers. People like to say that higher damage means a higher contribution. Trust me, that is not my experience. I've done the runs like probably like 30-40 times by now at least, and I haven't found any correlation as far as damage dealt to the rewards that you receive goes. So very good unit as far as speeding up the runs. However, don't stack just this unit, because then your runs will be super slow on top of that. Oh, and by the way, I forgot, she also has a level 1 burn for 2 times on her second skill as well, so she also shouldn't be used as a solo unit, as both skills contribute to the fight a lot. Now, the Dark Beetle, so another light dark NAF 5s, however this one is special because it is the only unit that has a similar effect like the Fire Pixie. It explodes all poison damage over time effects, so with the skill, whenever he uses the skill, he will explode all poison effects and instantly deal damage based on how many poison was stacked. Also, he has a few abilities that apply poison, so first of all, his third skill will deal level 2 poison for 25 seconds with a 100% chance. This is the best part. And he also has a passive where whenever he gets hit, he has a 10% chance to apply poison for 25 seconds. So you do want to be keeping him in the front line, constantly being hit by the boss, as it will cause you to do more damage that way. And him being an amazing damage over time unit, as well as being the only unit that can explode poison and speed up the runs, he gets a very confident S tier spot. And speaking of exploding effects, we're going to Water Raven. He is the only unit in the game that can explode frostbite damage over time effects. So again, this makes him an amazing unit for this dungeon. On top of that, he also has an effect that actually adds frostbite. So 60% chance for level 1 frostbite. However, this attack hits 4 times, so on average you're looking at around 2.4 frostbites per skill usage for 20 seconds, so the cooldown is also very good. And on top of that, whenever you apply frostbite, you will decrease the cooldown of the explode frostbite, allowing to cycle those skills a lot. And just like the Dark Beetle, he is getting a very confident spot in the S tier position. Now Purian, the Water Inferno, he's sort of very similar to the Light and Water Garudas. So his monster skill cooldown and similar skill cooldown is 5% lower. However, it is still a very decent unit for that, and it also provides a critical rate up. And as some units like the, I believe it was the Water or the Dark Imp, they require critical hits to apply damage over time effects, so it can be a very good way to sort of combine the usage of those. So he will get a spot in the B tier next to the Light Penguin. However, I feel like Light Penguin is a little bit better. No, you know what? No. I think this guy will be better than the Light Penguin, because the mana cost on that skill is a bit higher, so I feel like that critical rate boost, even though it's not too important in Seal, it can help out. So he will be in B tier, but he will be just above the Light Penguin. Okay, Smokey, the Fire Pumpkin. So similar to the Fire Pixie, he also has the ability to explode burn on his third skill. However, he is way better than the Fire Pixie because he has a second skill that, if you look at the amount of times he applies burns, is actually quite insane. He hits 3 times and each hit has a 75% chance to apply either level 1 burn or level 2 burn. So in total, you're looking at what? That's an average of like at least 5 to 6 burns when you combine the activation rate as well. So yeah, amazing unit, way higher levels of burn compared to the Fire Pixie, and he also deserves his spot in the S tier, of course way higher than the rest of the exploders, as he applies more damage over times compared to the rest. And I'm also even going to be putting him above Eleanor, as I feel like the amount of burns he does definitely outshines the cooldowns that she is able to boost. Okay, Wind Elemental, Taharos. This one is sort of an underlooked unit, I feel like, as he is sort of perfect for this dungeon. First of all, his third skill applies level 1 poison for 30 seconds, so that's a very long duration for the effect as far as cost and cooldown go. Also, he can self-buff attack speed and crit up, and which transitions sort of very well into his basic attack, where if a critical hit occurs, he has a 15% chance compared to like the rest units that have 6% chance to apply level 1 poison, and that poison lasts for 22 seconds as well. So he is actually one of probably the best poison damage over time appliers in the game, and I'm gonna be putting him in the A tier. I'm gonna be putting him above the Thessalian, I feel like, because he has way higher chance to apply damage over time effects. However, I don't think he will be better than the Water Imp, since he is able to stack a lot of frostbites with one of his skills. Now Gibraltar, the fire, what's it called? Cobble Bomber, I believe, right? Yeah. This guy has 2 skills that apply burn, and he's actually a very decent unit as far as that goes. So his third skill will only deal level 1 burn, however the ability hits 4 times, so there is pretty much a level 4 burn guaranteed to hit with the skill, as the activation rate is 100%. Also, on top of that, he has a second skill which hits 3 times. Each hit allows you to stack that burn effect for 20 seconds. And if you look at this passive, whenever you apply burn with the skill, it will actually reduce its cooldown by 10%, so that's a maximum of 30% cooldown decrease, meaning that this becomes from 30 seconds down to like 21 seconds cooldown for on average having like 2.25 burns per skill usage. So while he cannot explode, of course, he is one of the better damage over time appliers in the game, and he will also get a confident A spot in here. Now Rakan, the Fire Chimera, is also one of the better units that apply damage over time effects. So first of all, his basic attack can apply level 1 burn for 14 seconds with a 6% chance, meaning that you should stack attack speed if you plan on using him in the sealed dungeon. And also his third skill, it hits 3 times, and each hit has a 75% chance to apply the burn for 20 seconds. And a little bit, or actually he was sort of similar to Thessalian. However, if you check at the skill cost, Thessalian's third skill will cost 4 mana, while this guy will only cost 3 mana, meaning that based on the similar, he will apply similar effects. However, his charge skill will have a bit of a lower cost, making him a much better unit than Thessalian goes. And I'm gonna be putting him probably, yeah, below the Elemental, as I feel like Poison is a better effect, and how should I say it? Poison is a better effect, and he also has the ability to apply effects with the basic attacks a bit more consistent. Now the Water Cowgirl, you may have seen me use her in yesterday's video called the Jiggle Physics. I think you know the reason why. Alright, now that we have established that, she has 2 abilities that contribute to the dungeon a lot. So first of all, this is a 6 hit ability, and it has 50% chance to apply Frostbite. Means on average you're looking at around level 3 Frostbite for 20 seconds. And a perfect combo for that is her third skill, which actually increases frostbite duration by 5 seconds whenever she lands a critical hit. So you should be running maximum critical rate on her for this dungeon, or at least run buffers that can buff up that critical rate to 100%. But she will contribute a lot, and she's probably one of the better units in this dungeon. Even if she doesn't apply a lot of damage over time herself, that ability to increase the duration will help a lot, and she is definitely a spot right next to Rika. I feel like she is better than him because she has the ability to increase those effects, and having both skills not being used, or rather having both skills being useful, she will not need to be in the Soul Link slot as well. Now, coming back to Chimeras, the water one, Taeor, it has a very similar skill to the fire and wind one, so level 1 frostbite for 14 seconds with a 6% chance, and on top of that he also has a second skill, which is a 3 mana cost, so pretty cheap, and it applies level 2 frostbite for 20 seconds. It is a bit worse than units like Rakan, who have a bit of a higher chance to apply more damage token effects with their charge skill. So he will be going in the B spot, however he will be very high on the B spot. Now that I think about it, I'm probably gonna be putting Kasarian in the B spot as well. Because compared to Rakan, he is way worse, and compared to Taeor, he has a little bit more burn, however that burn has a higher cooldown, so no, you know what? I'm gonna be putting here. The reason for that, he does have a defense break, which does allow you to deal with that guard phase a little bit easier. So yeah, more than just damage or time effects, he will help there as well. Now, the Dark Imp champion Loki, yeah, he's Loki. Basically, this guy has a 5-hit ability, which applies poison for 25 seconds whenever a critical hit happens. So again, you need to be running him with as close to 100% crit as possible, or have a critical buffer in here. And yeah, poison is a pretty rare effect, so he definitely deserves a decent spot in here, and I'm gonna be putting him just below Rakan, as I feel like he will do on average a bit less damage over time, but that damage over time is poison, and you will have a harder time stacking poison. And while we're talking about that, I'm gonna go and address the what is called the Dark Lich as well. It's also a Dark Nat 4. It has a very similar effect, and also, don't hate me on this, might be a controversial opinion. So if you look at the skill, it has the same chance to apply poison, and it applies it for the same duration as well. It hits 5 times, very similar to that Dark Imp champion, and it doesn't need critical, of course. However, if you look at the cooldown and mana cost, it is a 6-second longer cooldown and 1 higher mana cost, which unfortunately makes him a bit worse than the Dark Imp champion, and I'm going to be placing him in the B tier. I know people like to use him a lot, and I'm not even sure why he's held to such a high standard as well as seal goes. He's definitely not that amazing if you look at his kit, but yeah, he is still a decent damage over time applier. And the last unit, the Water Lizard. Let us quickly locate him. So this guy has both of his skills are really useful for seals. So first of all, this skill will hit 2 times, and each of them has a chance to apply poison for 25 seconds. This is a pretty low cooldown and mana cost, so it will be cycled quite a bit, and on average you're looking at around what, 1.6 to 1.7 poisons per skill usage, so it's definitely not too bad. However, the third skill ties it up together perfectly, and if the target has poison effects, it also increases the duration of them by 5 seconds. So very similar to the Water Cowgirl, he definitely has his spots up there. However, since he provides less damage over time effects, I will be putting him in the B tier. However, in that B tier, he deserves a very high spot, way above the Sarian or Taeor. And yeah, that's pretty much the tier list as far as seal goes. I think I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out, sort of. You may find that some units are lower or higher than you expected, and if you do agree or disagree with some of the placements, do let me know in the comments. I'm open to hearing your opinion on them. And yeah, see you in the next one.